My fellow citizens, my name is Joseph P. Firmage, candidate for President of the United States for 2024. At this time, I would like to address some fundamental concerns of our nation and our world that have been simmering and are now at near crisis levels, at least from the perspective of many. These three crises that I'd like to address for a few moments of your time, kindly, are serious. First, closest to home. This scourge of gun violence, slaughtering our children in safe havens of school, must stop. In my view, there is absolutely no excuse for the failure of legislatures at all levels to approve promptly universal background checks for those who wish to possess a gun. Further, to augment that very reasonable process, including under the Second Amendment. We ought to be requiring the natural process of obtaining a safety certification for those who purchase guns and wish to use them for any reason. Myself, I own two. I don't particularly choose to hunt, but I wouldn't mind it. I choose them for self-defense in my home. Okay. We do not need semi-automatic weapons in the hands of anybody except qualified military personnel. There is simply no basis to afford means that are available, especially without background checks, especially without safety certification, after all, to possess weapons that can kill, especially our sacred children. When I was growing up in a beautiful town called Holiday near Salt Lake City, Utah, I walked my younger brothers in elementary school. My two younger brothers to school virtually every day. It was a joy for me to go to elementary school and junior high. And did we ever worry about being slaughtered in our classrooms? Of course not. We have a sickness in this nation, and it, in my judgment, can be addressed with basic, decent policies, including universal background checks and safety certification classes that could last, an afternoon or a day or two? Why not? Why not? The response from some on the far, far right who, for some insane reason, believe that the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution justifies the aggregation and possession of semi-automatic weapons. Why? For what purpose? Hunting? Self-defense? In a home? In a neighborhood? My friends, my fellow citizens, this lack of a policy enforced is insane, and I, for one, stand firmly for the abolition of those types of weapons from any purchase authorized in the United States to a consumer. To suggest otherwise is simply nonsense. And I hope that the Congress under President Biden, or later, should I be elected your next president and commander-in-chief, will be enforced and put into practice. I stand for the Second Amendment. I understand the arguments and the impetus that a public that has the capability of self-defense, even in the most rarest of conceivable possibilities, as in the Revolutionary War, to take back a rogue government from our own danger. We are not in any manner facing that type of absurdity. Our government has been elected duly by us. I, for one, treasure, value, honor the United States Constitution and those elected to serve us in that shining city on a hill. Some candidates routinely throw around the notion that we have to change everything in DC with every federal election. It's a common refrain, as you know, and in some of the worst cases of political exploitation, we need to go drain a swamp in DC. That swamp, Reagan, one of my most honored presidents, termed a city on a hill. And I stand by that assertion, because that's how I feel about our great nation's capital and the people elected to serve in not only elected posts, but appointed posts by those we elect. I, for one, endorse our leaders, even ones that I did not necessarily support. Even though I may disagree with a given congressperson, a senator, or a president, that does not mean I do not honor their right to lead, to appoint, and serve us all, as I hope to myself, should I have your support in the coming election. Two other matters preoccupy much of the news today. One involves the de-dollarization, the concept of the removal of the US dollar from international settlements, and some may suggest as a reserve currency to be replaced. I consider these assertions nonsense. Now, the BRICS initiative is driven by the desire for nations to be able to settle debts to each other and exchange goods and services more efficiently and rapidly using their own currencies in reciprocal exchange. There is nothing wrong with that concept. It's a startup concept. I come from the technology industry, and whenever you have something of an operating system level option, if you will, a new version of an operating system for a computer, that's sort of how I look at the BRICS initiative. It's an interesting startup for international settlements, but it doesn't hold a candle to the level of robustness, both inside the BRICS nations themselves and outside and between nations. The dollar is sound, and so is our international settlement system. Should BRICS produce interesting results? Well, I am very confident that the evolution of the U.S. Treasury's agenda, with initiatives such as FedNow for the transference of currency rapidly from person to person, from business to business, from state to state, even from nation to nation, will surprise us all as citizens. Being privy to some of those technical developments, I can assure you that the forthcoming FedNow system is going to impress you, my fellow citizens. I'm looking forward to helping roll that out soon. Third, the most important international issue that we are confronting is the saber-rattling of nuclear-tipped nations that are threatening by their actions alone to trip us over into a third world war. Just days before we can celebrate the 78th anniversary, next Monday, of Victory Europe Day, VE Day, 78 years ago, when we took one gigantic leap to defeating Adolf Hitler, one of the greatest tyrants the world has ever known. And in September of this year, on September 2nd, we can celebrate the 78th anniversary of the end of World War II. I intend to devote time over the next 5 months to an international tour to nations that are playing a material role in both peacemaking efforts and those who are saber-rattling for war by their actions. And I will endeavor to work with the current administration and its refined State Department, Anthony Blinken and his team, to coordinate a multi-front effort to bring an end to World War II These are the skirmishes that are happening or about to in the Pacific. They're still playing out in the Solomon Islands case and in other areas and regions of the Pacific. Are we headed to war there again? And with regard to the very hot war in Eurasia, in Ukraine, I again intend to call for peace talks and to meet as I can as a candidate, not as an official of the government, but as a candidate, to discuss these matters personally with the leaders of the nations involved. I very much look forward to meeting with Zelensky and perhaps with Putin and Xi, if I should be given the invitation to do so. I am seeking that through various means. I say these things today because as I kick off my campaign to become your next president and commander-in-chief, I feel an obligation to share with you my intentions, my agenda, my plans, and my devotion to our country, to our Constitution, at a time when these kinds of assertions of leadership are needed. I will be in DC for a number of weeks to come, and I look forward to meeting many of my old friends and a lot of new ones as well there. Over the next few months, I look forward to visiting the capital cities of each of our 50 great states, and I look forward to seeing as many of you there as possible. Thank you. May God bless you, your families, and may God bless the United States of America.